Chapter 118 The 5th of October. It was about 6 o'clock in the evening. An opal-colored light, through which an autumn sun shed its golden rays, streamed from heaven down on the blue sea. The heat of the day had gradually decreased, and the light breeze, like the respiration of nature on awakening from the burning siesta of the south, began to be felt. A delicious zephyr refreshing the coasts of the Mediterranean, and wafting from shore to shore the sweet perfumes of the trees, mingled with the fresh smile of the sea. A light yacht, chaste and elegant in its form, was gliding amidst the first dews of night over the immense lake, extending from Gibraltar to the Dardanelles, and from Tunis to Venice. The motion resembled that of the swan that opens its wings to the wind and seems to glide over the water. It advanced, at the same time, swiftly and gracefully, leaving behind it a phosphorescent track. By degrees the sun, whose last rays had faded, disappeared behind the western horizon, but, as though to prove the truth of the glittering dreams in heathen mythology, its indiscreet fires, reappearing on the summit of each wave, seemed to reveal that the god of fire had just enfolded himself on the bosom of Amphitrite, who in vain endeavored to hide over her lover beneath her azure mantle. The yacht moved rapidly on, though there did not appear to be sufficient wind to ruffle the curling ringlets of a girl. Standing on the prow was a tall man of dark complexion, who saw with dilating eyes that they were approaching a dark mass of land in the shape of a cone, rising from the midst of the waves, like the hat of a catamount. "Is that Monte Cristo?" asked the traveller, to whose orders the yacht was for the time submitted, in a melancholy voice. "Yes, your Excellency," said the captain, "we have reached it." "We have reached it," repeated the traveller, in an accent of indescribable sadness. Then he added in a low voice, "Yes, that is the haven." And then he became plunged into a train of thought, the character of which was better revealed by a sad smile than it would have been by tears. A few minutes afterward a flash of light, which was extinguished instantly, was seen on the land, and the sound of firearms reached the yacht. "Your Excellency," said the captain, "that was the land signal. Will you answer it yourself?" "What signal?" The captain pointed toward the island, up the side of which ascended a volume of smoke, increasing as it rose. "Ah, yes," he said, as if awakening from a dream. "Give it to me." The captain gave him a loaded carbine. The traveller slowly raised it and fired in the air. 10 minutes afterward the sails were brailed, and they cast anchor about 100 paces from a little harbour. The boat was already in the sea, loaded with 4 rowers and a pilot. The traveller descended, and instead of sitting down on the stem of the boat, which had been decorated with a blue carpet for his accommodation, stood up with his arms crossed. The rowers waited, their oars half lifted out of the water, like birds drying their wings. "Proceed," said the traveller. The 8 oars fell into the sea simultaneously without splashing a drop of water, and the boat, yielding to the impulsion, glided forward. In an instant they found themselves in a little creek, formed by a natural indentation. The boat touched a bottom of fine sand. "Will your Excellency be so good as to mount the shoulders of 2 or 4 men? They will carry you ashore." The young man answered this invitation with a gesture of indifference, and stepping out of the boat, the sea immediately rose to his waist. "Ah, your Excellency," murmured the pilot, "you should not have done so. Our master will scold us for it." The young man continued to advance, following the sailors, who chose a firm footing. After about 30 paces they landed. The young man stamped on the ground to shake off the wet, and looked around for someone to show him his road, for it was quite dark. Just as he turned, a hand rested on his shoulder, and a voice, which made him shudder, exclaimed, "Good evening, Maximilian, you're punctual. Thank you." "Ah, it is you, Count," said the young man, in an almost joyful accent, pressing Monte Cristo's hand with both his own. "Yes. You see, I am as exact as you are. But you're dripping, my dear fellow. You must change your clothes." As Calypso said to Telemachus, "Come, I have a habitation prepared for you, in which you will soon forget fatigue and cold." Monte Cristo perceived that the young man had turned round. Indeed, Morrel saw with surprise that the man who had brought him had left without being paid, or uttering a word. Already the sound of their oars might be heard as they returned to the yacht. "Oh, yes," said the Count, "you're looking for the sailors." "Yes, I paid them nothing, and yet they're gone." "Never mind that, Maximilian," said Monte Cristo, smiling. "I've made an agreement with the navy, and that the access to my inland shall be free of all charge. I am, as they in civilized hands, on the free list." Morrel looked at the Count with surprise. "Count," he said, "you are not the same here as in Paris." "How so?" "Here you laugh." The Count's brow became clouded. "You are right to recall me to myself, Maximilian," he said. "I was delighted to see you again, and forgot for a moment that all happiness is fleeting." "Oh, no, no, Count," cried Maximilian, seizing the Count's hands. "Pray laugh, be happy, and prove to me, by your indifference, that life is not evil except to sufferers. Oh, how charitable, kind, and good! You affect this gaiety to inspire me with courage." "You are wrong, Morrel. I was really happy." "Then you forget me. So much the better." "How so?" "Yes, for as the gladiator said to the emperor when he entered the arena, 'He who is going to die salutes you.'" "Then you're not consoled?" asked the Count, surprised. "Oh!" exclaimed Morrel, with a glance full of bitter reproach, "do you think possible that I could be?" "Listen," said the Count. "Do you understand the meaning of my words? You cannot take me for a commonplace man, a mere rattle, emitting a vague and senseless noise. When I ask you if you are consoled, I speak to you as men for whom the human heart has no secrets. Well, Morrel, let us both examine the depth of your heart. Do you still feel the same feverish impatience of grief which made you start like a lion stung by a mosquito? Have you still that devouring thirst which can only be appeared in the grave? Have you still that ideality of regret which hurls the living from life to the pursuit of death? Or are you only suffering from the prostration of fatigue and weariness that quenches the ray of hope which fain would shine? Has the loss of memory rendered it impossible for you to weep? Oh, my dear friend, if this be the case, if you can no longer weep, if your frozen heart be dead, if you put all your trust in God, and turn all your looks to heaven, let us leave aside words too narrow for the sense which the soul gives them. Then, Maximilian, you are consoled. Do not complain." "Count," said Morrel, in a firm and at the same time soft voice, "listen to me, as to a man who speaks with his hand stretched to earth, his eyes raised to heaven. I come to die in the arms of a friend. Certainly there are people whom I love. I love my sister Julie. I love her husband Emmanuel. But I require a strong mind to smile on my last moments. My sister would be bathed in tears and fainting. I would see her suffer, and I have suffered enough. Emmanuel would tear the weapon from my hand, and alarm the house with his cries. You, Count, whose promise I have, you who are more than men, you who I would call a god if you are not mortal, you, I am sure, will lead me to death by a pleasant path, will you not?" "My friend," said the Count, "I still have one doubt. Are you weak enough to pride yourself upon your sufferings?" "No, indeed, I am calm," said Morrel, giving his hand to the Count. "My pulse does not beat slower or faster than usual. No, I feel I have searched the goal, and I will go no farther. You told me to wait and hope. Do you know what you did, unfortunate adviser? I waited a month, or rather, I suffered for a month. I did hope. Man is a poor wretched creature. I did hope. What I cannot tell. Something wonderful, an absurdity, a miracle. Of what nature, he alone can tell who mingled with our reason that folly we can hope. Yes, I did wait. Yes, I did hope, Count. And during this quarter of an hour we have been talking together, you have unconsciously wounded, tortured my heart. For every word you have uttered proved that there was no hope for me. Oh, Count, I shall sleep calmly, deliciously, in the arm of death." Morrel pronounced these words with an energy which made the Count shudder. "My friend," continued Morrel, "you named the 5th of October as the term of the delay you asked. Today is the 5th of October." He took out his watch. It is now 9 o'clock. I have yet 3 hours to live. Be it so, said the Count. Come. Morel mechanically followed the Count, and they had entered the grotto before he perceived it. He felt a carpet under his feet, a door opened, perfumes surrounded him, and a brilliant light dazzled his eyes. Morel hesitated to advance. He dreaded the enervating effect of all he saw. Monte Cristo drew him in gently. Why should we not spend the last 3 hours remaining of us of life like those ancient Romans who, when condemned by Nero, their emperors and heir, sat down at table crowned with flowers, and inhaled death in a perfume of heliotropes and roses? Morel smiled. As you please, he said. Death is always death. That is forgetfulness, repose, exclusion from life, and therefore grief. He sat down, and Monte Cristo placed himself opposite to him. They were in the marvelous dining room before described, where the statues had baskets on their heads, always filled with fruits and flowers. Morel had looked carelessly around, and had probably noticed nothing. Let us talk like men, he said, looking at the Count. Proceed. Count, said Morel, you are the epitome of all human knowledge, and you seem to a being descended from a wiser and more advanced world than ours. There is nothing true in what you say, said the Count, with that smile which made him so handsome. I have descended from a planet called Grief. I believe you tell me without questioning its senses. In proof, you told me to live, and I did live. You told me to hope, and I almost did so. I am almost inclined to ask you, as though you had experienced death, is it painful to die? Monte Cristo looked upon Morel with indescribable tenderness. Yes, he said. Yes, doubtless it is painful. If you violently break this outer covering which obstinately begs for life, if you make your flesh quiver under the imperceptible teeth of your dagger, if you send a ball which has no sense and is always ready to lose its way into your brain, which the least shock disorders, certainly then you will suffer pain, you will repent quitting life, and in the midst of your despairing agonies, you will find it better than a repose bought so dear. Yes, I understand there is a secret of luxury and pain in death, as well as in life. The only thing is to understand it. You have spoken truly, Maximilian, according to the care we bestow upon it. Death is either a friend who rocks us gently as a nurse, or an enemy who violently drags the soul from the body. Some day, when the world is much older, and when mankind will be masters of all the destructive powers in nature, to serve for the general good of humanity, when mankind, as you were just saying, have discovered the secrets of death, then death will become as sweet as a slumber in the arms of your beloved. And if you wish to die, would you choose this death, Count? Yes. Morel extended his hand. Now I understand, he said, why you had me brought here to this desolate spot, in the midst of the ocean, to this subterranean palace. It was because you loved me, was it not, Count? It was because you loved me well enough to give me one of those sweet means of death of which we were speaking, a death without agony, a death which allows me to fade away while pronouncing Valentine's name and pressing your hand. Yes, you have guessed rightly, Morel, said the Count. That is what I intended. Thanks. The idea that tomorrow I shall no longer suffer is sweet to my heart. Do you then regret nothing? No, replied Morel. Not even me? Asked the Count, with deep emotion. Morel's clear eye was for the moment clouded. Then it shone with unusual luster, and a large tear rolled down his cheek. What, said the Count, do you still regret anything in the world, and yet die? Oh, I entreat you, exclaimed Morel in a low voice. Do not speak another word, Count. Do not prolong my punishment. The Count fancied he was yielding, and this belief revived the horrible doubt that had overwhelmed him at the Chateau d'If. I am endeavoring, he thought, to make this man happy. I look upon his restitution as a weight thrown into the scale to balance the evil I have wrought. Now, supposing I am deceived, if this man has not been unhappy enough to merit happiness, alas, what would become of me who can only atone for evil by doing good? Then he said aloud, Listen, Morel, I see your grief is great, but still you do not like to risk your soul. Morel smiled sadly. Count, he said, I swear to you my soul is no longer my own. Maximilian, you know I have no relation in the world. I have accustomed myself to regard you as my son. Well then, to save my son I will sacrifice my life, nay, even my fortune. What do you mean? I mean that you wish to quit life because you do not understand all the enjoyments which are the fruits of a large fortune. Morale, I possess nearly 100 millions, and I give them to you. With such a fortune you can attain every wish. Are you ambitious? Every career is open to you. Overturn the world, change its character, yield to mad ideas, even criminal, but live. Count, I have your word, said Morale coldly. Then, taking out his watch, he added, It's 11:30. Morale, can you intend it in my house, beneath my eyes? Then let me go, said Maximilian, or I shall think you did not love me for my own sake, but for yours. And he rose. It is well, said Monte Cristo, whose countenance brightened at the words. You wish it. You are inflexible. Yes, as you said, you are indeed wretched, and a miracle alone can cure you. Sit down, Morel, and wait. Morel obeyed, and the count rose, and unlocking a closet with a key suspended from his gold chain, took from it a little silver casket, beautifully carved and chased, the corners of which represented four bending figures, similar to the caryatides, the forms of women, symbols of angels aspiring to heaven. He placed the casket on the table, then opening it, took a little golden box, the top of which flew open when touched by a secret spring. This box contained an unctuous substance, partly solid, of which it was impossible to discover the color, owing to the reflection of the polished gold, sapphires, rubies, emeralds, which ornamented the box. It was a dazzling blaze of blue, red, and gold. The Count took out a small quantity of this with a gilt spoon, and offered it to Marat, fixing a long, steadfast glance upon him. It was then observable that the substance was greenish. This is what you asked for, he said, and what I promised to give you. I thank you from the depth of my heart, said the young man, taking the spoon from the hands of Monte Cristo. The Count took another spoon, and again dipped it into the golden box. What are you going to do, my friend? Asked Morel, arresting his hand. Ma foi, Morel, I was thinking that I, too, am weary of life, and since an opportunity presents itself. Stay, said the young man, you who love and are adored, you who have faith and hope. Oh no, don't follow my example. In your case it would be a crime. Adieu, my noble and generous friend. Adieu. I will go and tell Valentine what you have done for me. And slowly, though without any hesitation, only waiting to press the Count's hand fervently, he swallowed the mysterious substance offered by Monte Cristo. Then they were both silent. Ali, mute and attentive, brought the pipes and coffee, and disappeared. By degrees the lamp gradually faded in the hands of the marble statues which held them, and the perfumes appeared less powerful to Marat. Seated opposite to him, Monte Cristo watched him in the shadow, and Morel saw nothing but the bright eyes of the Count. An overpowering sadness took possession of the young man. His hands relaxed their hold of the nargileh. The objects in the room gradually lost their forms and color, and his disturbed vision seemed to perceive doors and curtains open in the wall. Friend, he cried, I feel that I am dying. Thanks. He made a last effort to extend his hand, but it fell powerless beside him. Then it appeared to him that Monte Cristo smiled, not with the strange and fearful expression which had sometimes revealed to him the secrets of his heart, but with the benevolent kindness of a father for an infant that is unreasonable. At the same time the Count appeared to increase in stature. His form, nearly double its usual weight, stood out in relief against the red drapery. His black hair was thrown back, and he stood in the attitude of a menacing angel of the day of judgment. Marat, overpowered, turned round in the armchair. A delicious torpor was insinuating into every vein. A change of ideas presented themselves to his brain, like a new design on the kaleidoscope. Enervated, prostrated, and breathless, he felt nothing living in him but this dream. He seemed to be entering that vague delirium preceding death. He wished once again to press the Count's hand, but his own was unmovable. He wished to articulate a last farewell, but his tongue lay motionless and heavy in his throat, like a stone at the mouth of a sepulchre. Involuntarily his languid eyes closed, and still through his eyelashes a well-known form seemed to move amidst the obscurity with which he thought himself enveloped. The Count had just opened the door. Immediately a bright light from the next room, or rather from a palace adjoining, shone upon the room into which he was gently gliding for his last sleep. Then he saw a woman of marvelous beauty appear on the threshold of the door separating the two rooms. Pale and sweetly smiling, she looked like an angel of mercy conjuring the angel of vengeance. Is it heaven that opened before me? Thought the dying man. That angel resembles the one I have lost. Monte Cristo pointed Morrel to the young woman, who advanced toward him with clasped hands and a smile upon her lips. Valentine, Valentine, he mentally ejaculated, but his lips uttered no sound, and as though all his strength were centered in that eternal emotion, he sighed and closed his eyes. Valentine rushed toward him. His lips again moved. "He is calling you," said the Count. "He to whom you have confided your destiny, he from whom death would have separated you, calls you to him. Happily, I vanquished death. Henceforth, Valentine, we will never again be separated on earth, since he has rushed into death to find you. Without me, you would both have died. May God accept my atonement for these two existences." Valentine seized the Count's hand, and in her irresistible impulse of joy, carried it to her lips. "Oh, thank me again," said the Count. "Tell me till you are weary that I have restored you to happiness. You do not know how much I require this assurance." "Oh, yes, yes, I thank you with all my heart," said Valentine. "And if you doubt the sincerity of my gratitude, oh then, ask Haydée. Ask my beloved sister Haydée, who ever since our departure from France has caused me to wait patiently for the happy day, which today shines for me, while talking to me of you." "Then you love Haydée?" asked Monte Cristo, with an emotion he in vain endeavored to dissimulate. "Oh yes, with all my soul." "Well then, listen, Valentine," said the Count. "I have a favor to ask of you." "Of me? Oh, am I happy enough for that?" "Yes, you called Haydée your sister. Let her become so indeed, Valentine. Render her all the gratitude you fancy you owe me. Do you and Morrel protect her, for henceforth she will be alone in the world." "Alone in the world?" repeated a voice behind the Count. "And why?" Monte Cristo turned around. Haydée was standing, pale, looking at the Count with an expression of fearful amazement. "Because tomorrow, Haydée, you will be free. You will then assume your proper position in society, for I will not allow my destiny to overshadow yours. Daughter of a prince, I will restore you to the riches and name of your father." Haydée became pale, and lifting her transparent hands to heaven, exclaimed, in a voice hoarse with tears, "Then you leave me, my lord." "Haydée, Haydée, you are young and beautiful. Forget even my name and be happy." "It is well," said Haydée. "Your order shall be executed, my lord. I will forget even your name and be happy." And she stepped back to retire. "Oh heavens!" exclaimed Valentine, who was supporting the head of Morrel on her shoulder. "Do you not see how pale she is? Do you not see how she suffers?" Haydée answered with a heart-rending expression. "Why should he understand this, my sister? He is my master, and I am his slave. He has the right to notice nothing." The Count shuddered at the tone of a voice which penetrated the inmost recesses of his heart. His eyes met those of the young girl, and he could not bear their brilliancy. "Oh heavens!" exclaimed Monte Cristo. "Can my suspicion be correct, Haydée? Would it please you not to leave me?" "I am young," gently replied Haydée. "I love the life you have made so sweet to me, and I should regret to die." "You mean, then, that if I leave you, Haydée—" "I should die, yes, my lord." "Do you then love me?" "Oh, Valentine! He asks if I love him, Valentine. Tell him if you love Maximilian." The Count felt his heart dilate and throb. He opened his arms, and Haydée, uttering a cry, sprang into them. "Oh yes," she cried, "I do love you. I love you as one loves a father, brother, husband. I love you as my life, for you are the best, the noblest of created beings." "Let it be then as you wish, sweet angel. God has sustained me in my struggle with my enemies, and has given me this victory. He will not let me end my triumphs with this penance. I wish to punish myself, but has he pardoned me? Love me then, Haidee. Who knows? Perhaps your love will make me forget all I wish to forget. What do you mean, my lord? I mean that one word from you has enlightened me more than 20 years of slow experience. I have but you in the world, Haidee. Through you I again connect myself with life. Through you I shall suffer. Through you rejoice. Do you hear them, Valentine? Exclaimed Haidee. He says that through me he will suffer, through me, who would yield my life for his. Then the Count drew back for a moment. Have I discovered the truth? He said. But whether it be for recompense or punishment, I accept my fate. Come, Haidee, come. And throwing his arms around the young girl's waist, he pressed the hand of Valentine and disappeared. An hour had nearly passed, during which Valentine, breathless and motionless, watched steadfastly over Morel. At length she felt his heart beat. A faint breath played upon his lips. A slight shudder announcing the return of life passed through the young man's frame. At length his eyes opened, but they were at first fixed and expressionless. Then sight returned, and with it feeling and grief. Oh, he cried, in an accent of despair, the Count has deceived me. I am yet living. And extending his hand toward the table, he seized a knife. Dearest, exclaimed Valentine, with an adorable smile, awake and look this way. Morel uttered a loud exclamation, and frantic, doubtful, dazzled, as though by a celestial vision, he fell upon his knees. The next morning, at the first beams of day, Valentine and Morel were walking arm in arm on the seashore, Valentine relating how Monte Cristo had appeared in her room, and how he had unveiled everything, how he had revealed the crime, and finally, how he had saved her life by allowing her to seem dead. They found the door of the grotto opened, and went forth, a few remaining stars of night yet gleaming through the morning blue. Morel perceived a man standing amidst the group of rocks, who was waiting a sign from them to advance. He pointed him out to Valentine. Oh, that's Jacopo, she said, the captain of the yacht, and he beckoned him toward them. Do you wish to speak to us? Asked Morel. I have a letter to give you from the Count. From the Count? Murmured the two young people. Yes, read it. Morel opened the letter and read, My dear Maximilian, there is a felucca for you at anchor. Jacopo will conduct you to Leghorn, where Monsieur Noirtier awaits his granddaughter, whom he wishes to bless before you lead her to the altar. All that is in this grotto, my friend, my house in the Champs-Elysees and my house at Tréport, are the marriage gifts bestowed by Edmond Dantès upon the son of his old master Morel. Mademoiselle de Villefort will share them with you, for I entreat her to give to the poor all the fortune reverting to her from her father, now a madman, and her brother, who died last September with his mother. Tell the angel who will watch over your future destiny, Morel, to pray sometimes for a man who, like Satan, thought himself for an instant equal to God, but who now acknowledges, with Christian humanity, that God alone possesses supreme power and infinite wisdom. Perhaps those prayers may soften the remorse he feels in his heart. As for you, Morel, this is the secret of my conduct toward you. There is neither happiness nor misery in the world. There is only the comparison of one state with another, nothing more. He who has felt the deepest grief is best able to experience supreme happiness. We must have felt what it is to die, Morel, that we may appreciate the enjoyments of life. Live then and be happy, beloved children of my heart. And never forget that until the day when God will deign to reveal the future to men, all human wisdom is contained in these two words, wait and hope. Your friend, Edmond Dantès, Count of Monte Cristo. During this perusal of the letter, which informed Valentine, for the first time, of the madness of her father and the death of her brother, she became pale. A heavy sigh escaped from her bosom, and tears, not less painful because they were silent, ran down her cheeks. Her happiness cost her very dear. Morel looked around uneasily, but he said, The Count's generosity is too overwhelming. Valentine will be satisfied with my humble fortune. Where's the Count, friend? Lead me to him. Jacopo pointed toward the horizon. What do you mean? Asked Valentine. Where's the Count? Where's Haidee? Look, said Jacopo. The eyes of the young people were fixed upon the spot indicated by the sailor, and on the blue line separating the sky from the Mediterranean Sea, they perceived a large white sail, like the wing of a sea-mew. "Gone," said Morrel. "Gone! Adieu, my friend, adieu, my father." "Gone," murmured Valentine. "Adieu, my friend, adieu, my sister." "Who can say whether we shall ever see them again?" said Morrel, with tearful eyes. "My friend," replied Valentine, "has not the Count just told us all the human wisdom was contained in these two words? Wait and